Hi everyone, my name is Shivani Tyagi, your philosophy and ethics teacher. So we were talking about Locke, so we'll continue with his theory. So as I was talking to you that he was empiricist philosopher, and I gave you introduction of rationalism and empiricist, and it's very important to understand difference between these two. Why it is important? Because there are philosophers who are divided in subcategories in rationalism and empiricism. So when we talk about rationalism, these are the philosophers who talk about logic, who talk about facts, and empiricist philosophers are those philosophers who believe in sense experiences. So all those philosophers who think that by touching, by feeling, by hearing, and by seeing them, we can perceive, we can know the knowledge, those are empiricists. So when it comes to Locke, Locke was empiricist philosopher. So now you'll tell me in the comment section that why I said that Locke was a empiricist philosopher. By sharing his philosophy and his theories, you'll comment in the section. So let's understand. So in the last class, I told you about sensation and reflection, what his theory was about. So let's understand now deeply what exactly he wanted to say. So as I told you that he rejected innate ideas. Now what are innate ideas? Innate ideas are those ideas which are in us from birth, right? They are present in birth. So he says that innate ideas are not something that is in us. Basically we are going towards something step by empiricist, by experiencing it, by seeing it, or by touching it. So he says that our mind is like tabula rasa, a plain paper where every knowledge is directed by the experience, right? There is no idea in us which is fitted before. Okay, so this is what innate idea says, right? That there are some ideas. Few philosophers said that there are idea of God in us, which is from the basic. And then few philosophers said that there are ideas of morality, of the values, of ethical values, right, which are universally accepted. So these are the philosophers, they accepted innate ideas. But John Locke, he rejected that, right? He says that our mind is like tabula rasa, blank piece of paper, totally blank, a white sheet, where we are fitting our knowledge with experience, right? Through experience we are gaining the knowledge. To this he gives us example that our children, right, a child, a kid, he understand all the things about the world, about the culture, about the society, about any certain or logical thing also, step by step, right? So this is what he says, that it is made of tabula rasa. So all our ideas and knowledge come from experiences. As I said that he was an empiricist philosopher, so his ideas were basically based on experience, right? So he divided it with sensation and reflection, that I explained you in the last class also. Sensation is sense perception, right? It is directly perceive the qualities of external object. If I can see this pen, I am seeing the direct objects of it, like perspective of it. So it's external object, like the color, like the coldness, hotness, softness, sweetness, sound. So all of these are what? If I see this black color, if I see this straight pen, right, a long pen, what is this? These are external objects which have qualities. This pen has qualities, black color is the quality. So this is what sensation is. Now when we talk about reflection, what is reflection? It's an internal operation of mind, right? Now I know about this pen by thinking, by doubting, by analyzing it, but because I've experienced it before, right? So our mind helps analyzing things and through the reflection. So basically reflection is somehow dependent on sensation. If sensation is not there, reflection won't be there. So this is the difference between sensation and reflection, and his theory is totally based on experience. So there is one question for you, and I want you to write in the comment section, and I'll be waiting for you, to have the discussion on basis of this. So question is that imagine you are designing UPSC education policy with Locke's philosophy. So how would you apply tabula rasa in teaching? This is a very deep question, and this is what I do in my class also. Whenever we read any philosophy, when we connect with it, real life situations, with real life scenario, right? You're preparing for such an amazing exam where you'll have the power to change the society in a good way, where you have the like tendency, where you should have the dedication to do something for your society. So this is what I do in my class. I merge philosophers with real life scenarios, and then we have a huge discussion about it. So if you are missing this, then you are most welcome in my class, and I'll be waiting for the answer of this question, and we'll discuss about this answer there. So he divided ideas, right, in simple and complex. So basically we are getting sensation and reflection through the experiences, and then we are generating the idea. Now he divided ideas also in two categories, simple and complex. Now let's understand what simple and complex ideas are. So simple ideas are one uniform ideas that enter through direct perception, right? If I can see this pen, if I can see you, if you can see me, teaching you, then that's direct perceptions. There is no mediator, right? My eyes have direct contact with the object. This is simple. One uniform ideas enter the mind through a direct perception, right? Suppose the idea of Rose, right? And because he, so Rose, please, I request you not to judge me on basis of the drawings that I do good drawings, but so the idea of Rose, it's generating, it's through the direct perception, right? So with the direct perception, he had the idea in his mind, Rose, by seeing the color of it, right? By seeing the shape of it, he had the idea. Like, it was direct perception. It takes a very shorter time to have that experience, right? Then what is complex? Complex is combination of several simple ideas. Now because he had the direct perception of Rose, and he had the idea that yes, this is Rose, because he had reflection of it, because he had his mind had few sensation of it. So because of reflection and sensation, he had simple idea, right? Now what is combination of several ideas? So he had idea of Rose, but he had the idea of Rose through what? Through petals, through the color, right? Through the stem. So after merging all these together, he got the idea of Rose, right? So this is what complex is. This is the combination of several simple ideas. Okay, then all simple ideas come from sense perception. Just I've told you that if you're seeing a rose, that's because you are perceiving it. You can see the color, you can see leaves, you can see the stem, and because of it, you're getting the idea, right? And formation of new complex ideas. You are basically combining all of those simple ideas together, and then you are understanding that yes, this is the whole picture of the rose. Understood? Then we have log arguments against innate ideas. So I explained it to you that what innate ideas are, right? He rejected them. Now why he rejected them? Let's understand that. So argument number one, no need for innate ideas. He says that we don't need innate ideas because knowledge explained by experience, no pre-placed idea in the soul. He says that there is nothing like innate ideas exist in us, right? We don't have a pre-placed ideas in the mind, in the soul. Why? He says that whatever we are learning, whatever we are knowing is through our sense experience, right? And through that, being an empiricist, he says that only our senses are enough to gain the knowledge, to know the world, to know the reality, to know the truth, right? So argument number two, no universal agreement. So this he questions that if you are saying that innate ideas exist, if you think that morality, for example, if morality like is an innate idea, it's been like given in our mind from like the starting, and we are born with it, then why we don't have universal agreement to it? And to this, I can give you example. Suppose the definition of right for me might be something different to the definition of right to you, right? So the differences can be seen. There is no universal agreement, right? There are different culture, there are different diversity, the variations are there. So if this universal agreement cannot be seen, then how can we see that innate ideas are present? Even the definition of God is different in different culture. Even the definition of right and good is different in different culture, and for different people, according to the situation, they changes it. So though no universal agreement is seen, so on basis of this, he questions that no universal agreement is seen, then how can we say that innate ideas exist, right? Then he says contradictions, that can't say innate ideas exist but are unrecognized. So it was said by philosophers that it is not recognized by everyone. These innate ideas are not recognized by everyone. To this, Locke says this is not sensible at all. Why it is not sensible at all? Because if something is present in ourselves, right? If I am born with something, then how is it possible that I'm not aware of it? Right? So this is what he questions. He says that it should be like breathing an air, right? This should be present in us. We should know this. Then how can we make such a big statement, big suggestion that innate ideas are unrecognized to us? This doesn't make any sense. If something such big is present in us, then how we cannot know about it? This is what he questions. So argument for children's and disabled. So basically he says that if you will see these two people, these two types, then you'll understand then innate ideas are not present in us. Why? Because children's, right, children are often seen that they are like speaking few different languages, right? And children are one who understand basic things, and then they analyze and they recognize the bigger things, right? So first of all, they learn from ABCD, right? And then they form the sentences, right? And then and those sentences are like broken, they cannot speak them properly, but they try to, and then they come to the knowledge, right? So these are like steps. Taking the example of children, he explains that these are the steps that goes by learning one thing to another. This is not a formation that is being fitted into us from the starting or from the beginning, or we are born with it from the birth, right? So these are the contradictions that he talks about. So on the basis of this, he proves that it is unprovable. Innate ideas are unprovable, right? So this is another question, and I hope that you'll be commenting in the section. It is that if knowledge is not inborn, then how do you explain things like a baby instantly recognizing its mother's face or voice? Is that experience or something deeper? So question against Locke's theory that if you are saying that something like innate ideas are not present in us, then how come the baby recognize the mother's touch, the mother's love, right? So we have seen it that whenever a child, even a 1 month born child, is seen, moving towards her mother, that love and care for her mother, right? And this is the question that I'll be waiting for your comment. So basically, primary qualities and secondary qualities. Now, what are primary qualities? So these qualities are that physical objects themselves have. So this pen, what quality does this pen have? Black color, the shape of it, right? So solidity, density, mass, weight, mobility, figure, these are the primary qualities. I perceiving this have nothing to do with primary qualities, right? These qualities are like objects qualities. Then secondary qualities are not objective real but subjectively perceived, right? So they are color, smell, taste, sound. Now I may see this pen of black color, but according to you or to the person who has problems in recognizing colors, is blind in colors, so basically he may recognize it with some other color, right? So this is subjective. Secondary quality is subjective and primary qualities are basically objective. So this is the difference, right? Then these secondary qualities give rise to disagreements about the perceptions of outside world. Sometime famous very philosophical example that we see around, when you move in a room, right? You move in a room and you see a rope, and now because the light is dim and you may think that it is snake, right? So this is what Locke says, that even our sensory experiences can even deceive us, right? So secondary qualities can be doubted, and I said that primary qualities, we don't have anything to do with that. They are objective qualities. Whatever object we are perceiving, they are existing in themselves. Then Locke's idea of knowledge. He defined knowledge as that the mind see that connects agreement or disagreement of ideas, right? So basically, he says that whatever we are perceiving, the knowledge we are getting, it's an agreement and disagreement of ideas. Doesn't matter what kind of ideas we are perceiving or what kind of contradictions we are going through, but knowledge is coming with both connections, right, which is agreement or disagreement. In both of the ways, we are getting or gaining the knowledge. And I think Locke and Hegel, these two philosophers, are the one who said about contradiction something so beautiful. And I really personally think that this is what we should recognize, this is what we should understand from philosophy. Then disagreement and contradictions are not something negative, we made it negative, right? But if we see other beautiful side of these two terms, then I think we can recognize it, we can implement it, and something beautiful can come out of it. So if you are the one who have this same philosophy, then I would like to know again, right in the comment section, then we'll be discussing of it over there. Then he talks about 3 degrees of knowledge. What are these 3 degrees? First is intuitive knowledge. This is the strongest knowledge that he says. And this came in question also. What is intuitive knowledge? It's which cannot be doubted. For the first instance, it is true, right? For example, 2 plus 2 is 4, right? It cannot be doubted. Then demonstrative knowledge. Demonstrative knowledge is for which, a mediator is required to prove the theory. There are steps, certain steps required to prove it, right? So this is demonstrative knowledge. Sensitive knowledge is whatever we are gaining or understanding through our experiences. So he says that sensitive knowledge can be doubted. So this is the knowledge he says it can be doubted. And why it can be doubted? Because sometimes experiences, our senses can deceive us, right? So he says intuitive knowledge is strongest one, and sensitive knowledge is something is which is doubtful, and we cannot trust sensitive knowledge. So this is what he talks about. Then limitation of Locke's empiricism. So basically, the criticism that he got was between primary versus secondary qualities. He says that too simple, often interconnected. He says that because we don't have primary qualities like understanding, that the qualities which are existing in the object only and we cannot perceive them, then what's the requirement? Like, what's the difference? What's the connection between these two, right? Then abstract concepts, maths and morals not reducible to senses. He says, as I said, that Locke said that whatever we can perceive is true, and all those things which we cannot perceive is not existing for me. So to this, people asked him the question. The philosophers asked him the question that if this is so, then how would you define justice? How would you just define morality, right and wrong, right? So all these things cannot be perceived. We cannot see them. We cannot understand them. So how will you define these things? How will you explain all of these things which cannot be understood or experienced or known through experiences? So these are abstract concepts. Then languages and symbols. So he was asked that sometimes children are often seen saying the language which cannot understand, which has no meaning, something different, right? So how will you explain that? So hard to explain only through experiences. Those language that children say, right, they come up with new word, they come with new definition, something very new. So how will you explain that? So these were the criticism that he got. So this was Locke's philosophy. So if you liked my teaching style, if you liked how I connected with real life examples, then you can join my class at Plutus IIS, and me and my students will be waiting for you to have more discussion with you, because I know that being a human being, there are variety of things that we can talk about, especially when it comes to philosophy and philosophers. So there are 2 questions that I gave to you, and I'll be waiting for your answers in the comment section. Thank you.